Is now the time to switch to AMD? This is a question I've been asking myself for the last couple of weeks as the 60 series of cards have finally hit store shelves and we're starting to see what the pricing actually is. Now, on the surface, when Nvidia and AMD announced these prices, they didn't seem too bad, but the reality usually is worse. If you look at even the 8 gigabyte 5060, the pricing is absolutely ridiculous. You could argue that at $300 is not a bad deal, but again, if you've watched any of the reviews, I think that you'll find that 8 gigabytes in 2025 just isn't the move anymore, no matter what the price is. You've basically cut your knees off for the amount of time you're going to be able to get use out of this card. Now, I've got a couple of videos coming out that'll kind of jump into the budget side of things. I just built a budget 1080p machine. That video is coming out soon. And I'm also going to talk about the price of budget gaming and like what that actually looks like, especially in the GPU market, a little bit more in depth. But this video is more about AMD specifically because the whole reason I would even consider AMD for my GPU is simply because of their price structure. Their performance, at least on the 9060 XT, is close to a 5060 Ti. The problem is their pricing is also close to 5060 Ti's. Most of the time, you will find a 5060 Ti closer to $500 range, even though they were supposed to be around 430 MSRP. We know the MSRP lie, which is that basically that's not a real number. But when you look at the 9060 XT price range, they are close to $400. Right now, a 5060 Ti 16 gigabyte, because we're going to just to pretend that the 8 gigabytes don't exist, can be found for $429. Now, that is the MSRP. Somehow we're back to MSRP magically right as the 9060 XT's launch. Isn't that interesting? The pricing being so close makes me actually consider AMD cards, but things in the past that I have to consider always raise their ugly head. For example, FSR quality not being as good as DLSS. I do use DLSS on most of my games at 4K because I'm trying to get high frame rates at 4K, and I don't mind it. Even DLSS 2 and 3, I think looked fine. And with DLSS 4, everything looks incredible, even at lower options. FSR 4 now finally kind of catches up with maybe where DLSS 3 was. So it's kind of safe now to go into those waters. But I'm still anxious about it. There are certain games where FSR2 is the standard. As a matter of fact, WWE 2K25, shout out to those who play, has FSR1. Brother, what? So things like that kind of make me a little nervous. And by the way, if I wanted to use FSR, I can use that on an Nvidia card, but I can't use DLSS on an AMD card. So I always feel like I'm giving something up. It's going to come down to what is it worth paying for? Is it worth paying for the Nvidia name, knowing that games are always going to support DLSS? They're always going to have the newest features like DLSS 4 being pushed everywhere, frame gen 2, 3, 4x, whether you like it or not, is going to get pushed everywhere because Nvidia just pretty much pays developers to do that. The one strong thing that AMD does actually have on their side is the fact that games very frequently do support FSR, mainly because both consoles, the PlayStation and Xbox, use AMD GPUs, so they kind of have to. Most developers that are developing for those game systems kind of want to make them look better than what they would be normally. The processors in those things, by this point, are kind of underpowered, but they do use FSR because it's the one thing that they can use across both consoles. So why not bring it to PC? So I guess my anxiety about going to an AMD GPU is kind of unfounded, and maybe I should just make the jump. And I probably will. But again, the 9060, when you look at it, isn't much more powerful than the 5060 Ti. As a matter of fact, in a lot of cases, it's not more powerful, and it's quite a bit behind. My biggest concern was it going to be as powerful as the RTX of the same price range? So we have to go 16 gig 5060 Ti, which now you can get for $430, versus the almost $400 9060 XT. And if you look at some of the reviews lately, the 5060 Ti wins more times than not. And that's concerning. Like I wanted it to be closer. If it was negligible, if it was just a couple of frames here and there, and in fairness, in some games it is, if it was a lot closer, a lot more of the time, then I would say save the 50 bucks or whatever it'll be and just get the AMD and just know that at some point the games will catch up. In fairness, the FSR4 number of games has jumped up quite a bit just in the last couple of days with the release of the 9060 XT. And it's good to see that. It's good to see AMD putting their money where their mouth is, or at the very least, going out and helping developers get FSR4 implemented, or at the very least, using their app to do that. I don't actually care how you get there. I don't care if you have the developers put it in natively or if you have some type of wrapper that works using the app or whatever. I don't care. Let me just get there. FSR4 looks amazing, and the new frame gen and everything else they're going to be doing looks amazing. But Nvidia already has all of these things, and they have things like ray reconstruction now, not like in a couple of months or a couple of years like AMD is talking about. They have it right now. And it's things like this that make me really anxious to go to AMD. And I think I'm not the only one. If you look at the Steam charts, everyone is on Nvidia. Let's just be honest. Everyone's on Nvidia. I would love, love, love to have an alternative to Nvidia, but really at this point, especially in the higher end, there is none. This is one of the most dangerous times in all of GPU history because AMD gave up. They were like, look, we ain't doing the high end stuff. We're going to do mid and low. We're not doing this anymore. So what does Nvidia do? Immediately drops a $2,000 GPU MSRP that is never $2,000. Bro, they were like, look, you ain't going to fight us? We're going all the way. And it's absolutely annoying as a gamer myself to want to be able to get some of the best frame rates at the best resolutions for my gaming PC and have to pay basically the price of, I don't know, a car to be able to get one versus maybe I just take some lesser quality and get a decent price for a GPU. At this point, PlayStations are looking pretty good right now at $400 to $500 for an entire system versus having to put together a PC. But I'm out of console life. I'm not going back. I can't go back. So I think my concern is I know what I'm getting with an RTX card. I'm getting pretty terrible drivers that may eventually get fixed over 3 or 4 revisions over the course of a couple of months, but all the games are going to support it. It's a big unknown for me for AMD. And I know that a lot of you actually have AMD GPUs. I would love to hear your experiences down below. And I'm going to dig into this. I am going to get a AMD video card. I'm going to use it for a period of time. As a first time user of that, I want to know what to expect. Are there things that I should know about? Things that I'm going to enjoy? Please tell me in the comment section below because I'm going into this blind. This could be the time where I finally shift over to AMD, but I'm going to need some help, y'all, and I'm looking for you to help me figure that out. I'll see y'all in the next one.